Hey guys, it's Exa and welcome back to my channel. Sorry that I've been kind of absent on posting videos the last few weeks. I completely remodeled my craft room, as you see around me, and it took a couple weeks kind of to build everything and put all of the crap away that I have in this craft studio, but now it is so much more organized and I can't wait to get back to making all of these fun crafting videos for you guys. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification button so that way you can see the videos coming out in the next few weeks about how I completely transformed the room up here. Might give you some ideas for your own kind of DIY cheap alternatives to redo a space in your own house. So for today's video, I'm going to be taking this Gucci shoe dust bag and turning it into a purse because I just love the pattern on this one. It was one of their like limited editions, and I just think it'd make a really cool purse. So that is what we are going to do today. Let's get started. Okay, so getting started, we have a ton of supplies for this one. Obviously, first we have our dust bag, which will be the front and the back of the bag, but it's not a ton of material, so I did just get some like solid cream colored fabric to be the lining and make the sides and the bottom of this bag. If you have like a massive material you're using with for this, instead of like repurposing a dust bag, then you may not need extra fabric. So for the bag hardware, I do have these straps that I purchased that are pre-made with little holes punched so we can sew those on, and then a crossbody strap. So to attach the crossbody strap, these are little like D-hinge rings that you kind of screw through the sides of the bag to clip it to. And then this is going to be kind of more of like a shopping bag style. So I got some little feet that we can put on the bottom of it so that way the material won't be like sitting on the tabletop. So since this is using some softer fabrics, I'm going to be using some cardstock and this like thick plastic roll to kind of make the edges so it's a lot stiffer. You could use regular cardboard or like thicker paper, or if you have like the fabric stiffener backing stuff, that would work as well. Okay, so for tools, obviously we're going to need a pair of scissors to cut our fabric. I found an X-Acto knife was more useful to kind of score the cardboard so that way we can get the sides to fold correctly than trying to do it with a scissor. Then since we are sewing, we will need some push pins to help kind of hold our fabric in place and our needles and thread. You will need some hand needles to sew the straps on, and then using a machine for the rest of it will go way faster. But don't fret, if you don't have a sewing machine, you can stitch the whole thing by hand. Need a pen to mark stuff. I got some fray check just to help where the edges kind of fray on my fabric. If you're using something that's like a suede, you probably don't need this, but for any kind of soft fabric that kind of like frays like this, you're going to want some fray check. Obviously we have a ruler or measuring tape just to make sure we're getting all our pieces cut to the right size. And then I do have a fabric spray adhesive because I am going to attach a layer of the fancy Gucci fabric onto our base material just to make it more sturdy since it's like a soft satin. So as I mentioned before, I'm going with a shopping bag style for this bag. Obviously mine should end up a little prettier than this plain brown paper bag. So the first thing you want to think about is what size dimensions you need for your bag. I ended up deciding to go with 11 by 11 by 4. So for our pieces, you will have a front, back, 2 sides, and the bottom. So we will be using our cardboard and our plastic to make the sides and front and bottom. So to make our pockets for this, we will need 2 pieces of fabric to cover each of these pattern pieces shown here. So once you've decided on the dimensions of your bag, you can go ahead and cut out the pieces that you need for your project. I am using the plastic for the front and back of my bag, and then we'll be using the cardboard to make the sides and the bottom. The only reason that I'm doing it this way is just because I don't have a big enough piece of cardboard to use that for the sides as well. So this is just a test piece I have, but we need to do our creases. So basically the way it's going to fold is like a paper bag. So you're going to, and there's 2 ways you can do this. So we're going to fold it in half and have our little triangle on the bottom. So you can either have it fold up the one side, like a normal paper bag, and then you'd have a crease on that side of the outside. Or what I'm going to do is have the fold on the bottom, so the bottom will tuck into the sides like that instead. And I think that'd be better for a bag anyway, because then as you put stuff in the bag, it'll help force it to stay straight instead of the one side kind of wanting to do this.
So we're going to make a line straight down the middle of each piece, so that way we can score them and then fold them for our pattern pieces. Remember, one of these is the bottom and two of these are the sides, so one of them will just have that fold in the middle, and two will need the little triangle cuts here on the edges.
So when you see this one, it's folding this way on the main part, and then it's folding the other way in the inside part.
So when we score them, we're just going to lightly go down the material. We just want to cut this back edge so that way it'll have a little give to fold.
Then we want to cut on the back side, making sure it's the same side as that part.
So once you have them all scored, you can gently massage the folds open. Remember, we are folding away from where we cut them to make the backing kind of open that direction.
So we will need 2 sheets of this fabric for each piece of the cardboard and stuff that we cut out, which for me means 4 pieces that are a little bigger than the 11 by 11 and 6 pieces that are the 4 by 11. You do want to make sure that you have enough for seam allowance on each side, so I'm actually going to leave about an inch on all of my sides, which is probably more than I need, but it's so much easier to cut off the extra than it is to completely have to resew the whole thing. Okay, so next we're going to very carefully cut open our dust bag. Just cut right along this seam right here. So now that it is totally cut apart, we can figure out what part of our scene we want to be our front and back. So I'm thinking I'm going to do this part for the front here. Try to, bring it up a bit so I get most of that castle line in it. So that'll be the front. And then I think on the back we'll do a little bit lower down so we can catch all of these groups of people. So now we will take each of our front and back pieces and attach them onto our other piece to give it a little more support so we can figure out exactly kind of line up where we want that to be for the back, and then we'll use our spray adhesive and attach them.
And be sure that you're doing a test on like a little scrap piece of paper before you do this in real life, just because you want to make sure that it isn't going to change the color of your materials or like bleed through your fabrics.
So next we need to attach the feet on the bottom before we sew it all together, so that way you don't see the little pins inside the bag and they don't get caught on stuff. So first thing we're going to do is we're actually just going to glue this fabric onto the cardboard for the bottom.
So then we can go ahead and mark where we want to put our feet. I'm just kind of eyeballing it, but if you want to be precise, go ahead and measure from your corners. And I'm using my little awl or whatever metal pokey tool that you have to poke some holes. Then we can stick our feet through and pop the brads open to hold them in place. So then go ahead and repeat this until you have all 4 of your feet in place, and now we are finally done with prep and ready to sew.
So I'm going to sew the right side on the outside. So we're going to put this guy and lay him down like so. This is our front and our pocket's going to be in here. So we're going to put our backing down, our lining down, and then our outside down with the outside layer facing up, so that way when we put our seams together we want them to fold this way, but we want to do our next side that goes this way at the same time, so we want to put him on top so that way then all of the seams will fold on the inside and like this piece we'll have all the seams here, and then we can fold it and it'll be nice even side like that. I hope that made sense. So we will take 2 pieces of our side material and put them up over here too. And then we do want to line up when we're seams here to make sure that our pieces will all fit nicely in this little guy. So again, we can decide exactly where we want him. I'm just going to make a little mark just to guide my pins there.
So as you can see, we have plenty of seam allowance for both pieces. And then I'm just going to go ahead and pin these in place, and then we can get sewing.
So now he is all pinned up. Just double check. This is the outside, and these ones don't matter, but this is the outside. So we stitch right along here, and then we'll be able to flip this guy around, and it'll be like this with a nice corner. So now we have that stitched, and as you can see, when we open it up, it'll be a nice tight corner like so. So next we're going to attach the next side onto this one, doing the same thing. And then again, put him face towards face. Kind of line him up.
So I'm doing the same process where I'm making sure that I'm going to have the correct distance for my little pieces to slide into my bag pockets. And then you can go ahead and sew the next side.
So there, now we have those sides attached, so we just need to do one more on each of those sides. The same process. So now we have this assembled inside out. So since it's inside out, we want our feet towards the inside. So it's like this, so then when we flip it right side out, it'll all be facing the right. Okay, so he is sewed on, so now we're just going to kind of line it up with the bottom here and then stitch up the last 3 sides.
I found it was really hard to kind of sew these corners here on the machine, so I am just going to hand stitch around these corners to make sure that there aren't any gaps and everything is nice and tightly sewn together in this little triangle. So now that we have our whole bag kind of sewn on and supported like this, the next step is to trim off the extra sides and then fray check the edges, because obviously we don't need that much extra material. I ended up with about 1/4 inch past each of my stitch lines here. And now we have it all trimmed down. This will be a much nicer inside edge of the bag. So then we can just take open our fray check and just cover every inch of all of these seams. Now the fray check does need a little bit to dry, so you will want to wait a few hours before you continue on to the next step. So next we're going to finally make our bag right side out. Be really careful while you're doing this that you're not accidentally bending your bottom cardboard piece in a direction you don't want it to bend in. And then once you have it right side out, you can go ahead and slip in your little edge pieces. So you do want to make sure that the folds are going the correct way for these 2 sides, so you want them to kind of fold in the middle there. So you can go ahead and slide each piece in, and they should be a nice tight fit if you measured and made everything correctly. If you need to trim the sides a little bit because your pockets are a tiny bit too small, go ahead and do that now. And then you can stick in all of your edges. Make sure that they also are fully touching down on that bottom edge there. So now to make our top edges pretty and kind of hold all of our hard plastic pieces in place, we're just going to fold the edges together kind of like this and then hand sew them. So I did end up making the front and back a little bit longer because I decided I'm going to put a zipper in there to help close the bag. So those ones have about 1 inch past where the plastic edge ends, so that way then we have enough space that we can have our zipper closure. So when you're sewing this, I am just kind of going back and forth and doing a little bit of a back stitch in the inside to make sure that our front seam has like a straight stitch line all the way across. So I also use my pins to kind of help hold this in place while I'm going across here, but you do want to get as close to your little cardboard inserts as you possibly can with this seam to make sure that they're held in tightly. So I'm doing the same process on our front and backs. Even though we have this overhang, first we're just going to stitch right along the edge of the plastic insert to make sure that that is staying as tightly down to the bottom and won't shift or move around inside the edge here. So then we can pin on our zipper like so and go ahead and stitch that on as well. So I did end up doing some X stitches for my zipper here. I wanted to make sure it was super secured. Zippers tend to kind of put a lot of tension on your stitches. So moving on, we can go ahead and poke our holes to put in our little hook straps for the crossbody strap. For some reason I don't have the filming of me actually like screwing it together, but you get the point. Go ahead and poke your hole and then put the inside on the inside and the outside on the outside and screw them together. Bam! So now we are finally on the last step of this project, which is to put on our handles on the front. So I'm also using my awl to poke through here just because I have that stiffener material in the middle and shoving a needle through would be really difficult otherwise. So we're just going back and forth and securing each edge of those straps on. Pretty self-explanatory. They already have holes, so you can just kind of follow the guided holes and go all the way around and make sure that they are tightly secured. It's a good idea to measure when you go to do the other side to make sure that it will line up correctly with the one that you did first on the front side of the bag. Obviously, you don't want them to be uneven. Na 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 na. Yeah, I don't know how to insert some satisfying music here. Man, do I feel accomplished with this one. So we have our handy dandy crossbody strap to carry it on your shoulder, as well as the pair of top handles. And I did end up putting the zipper in here just to help protect anything that is in the bag so I don't knock it over and spill it all out. And we have our precious little feet, so that way the bottom of the bag doesn't get all dirty from setting it wherever you tend to go. And I think, honestly, my favorite feature is the fact that it does kind of squish down for storage, which is really great. Well, guys, I think it came out even better, honestly, than I was anticipating. I got a little worried there in the middle about how it would turn out, but I think it is fantastic. As always, if you guys try out one of my tutorials and make something of your own, I would love to see it, so please send it to me on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe. I know I've been saying for months that I am going to make a pair of leather heels from scratch, and I swear I'm going to finally do it. I was honestly just procrastinating because I needed to redo the craft studio, and I just couldn't find anything and felt super uninspired for the last few weeks, which is why I haven't been posting. But now we will be back to our regularly scheduled every Friday postings, so be sure to subscribe and hit that notification button. So until next time, I hope your day is as beautiful as you are.